Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Melvin on the Mic. And today I'm on the mic with my friend Morgan Brannon.
That's me.
Morgan and I met initially on Facebook, which is actually, strangely enough, how I've met a lot of people these days. And sometimes I can't ever really trace back of who friended who first. But I think in this case, I probably sent you a friend request.
Yes.
And initially, I was reaching out to Morgan because if you don't know me from one of my other side gigs, because I've got a million of them, right?
You do.
But one of the things I love and spend time on and haven't as much recently is photography. And the style of photography I do, if you guys want to go check it out, mmpstudios.com. I'll put a link in the description below. But it's kind of more of, I primarily shoot with like models or females, and sometimes it's boudoir, sometimes it's portraits, sometimes it's creative stuff. And for me personally, I really much more lean towards the creative stuff. But oddly enough, how many years later is it now?
Oh, geez.
About 3, maybe?
Yeah, I'd say we're going on about 3 years.
We haven't done that photo shoot yet.
No, we haven't. No, we haven't. And every time that I think about it, I'm like, why?
I remember like we had met up one day, we had all the outfits lined up, all the accessories lined up, and that was when I was living at Tan's. And I remember like when I was packing everything up to move here, I remember finding like these grocery sacks in the closet with like all these like things. I'm like, what the heck is this?
Oh, what?
And I start looking at each one. I was like, oh, this was one set of photos we were going to do this.
Yep.
And I can't remember if I kept it all together or not. I think I may have separated some of that stuff out. I don't remember because I had to pack to move. So I had to simplify it as much as I can.
Oh, yeah.
But, originally it was photo shoots, and one of these days maybe we'll get around to that. But
I'm sure we will.
yeah, Morgan actually also ended up learning about what I do with the paranormal stuff. And you guys, if you've been watching my podcast, you've probably seen Patrick on I think he was my second episode. Patrick and I have been working on Ghost Texas, which is paranormal investigations, for quite some time. And Morgan showed an interest in that and kind of joined the team.
Yep.
So you've been what, with two investigations, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We've done 2.
First one you did was old San Jacinto County Jail in Cold Spring, Texas.
Yep. And then we just did our second one.
The Sweat Fest.
Oh my God. It was so awful. Just physically awful. I feel like that the heat in that house was so awful. So we did an investigation at Bowers Mansion, and it wasn't until we got there and started talking with the owners that we were informed that they do not turn on the AC. This is a massive house in the middle of Texas.
In the summer.
We don't have a breeze. So it's not like, we were able to just open up a couple windows and that should suffice. No, it was all of the windows were open as much as I could get them open.
Yep. And
it felt like a sauna.
I think it was one of those days. It was probably about 100 degrees outside that day.
Yep.
And even when the sun set. So a lot of times when we do these investigations, at the end of the investigation, we'll feel drained. We usually feel drained because of the investigation, not from sitting in a chair sweating.
The environment doesn't have like much to do with our energy being drained.
Yeah, it was so bad that I left the house and I had to Google or Google Map and find the nearest Walmart.
Yep.
To go buy a pair of shorts because I was just like that.
Yep.
It was so hot. It was just so freaking hot that like I couldn't really focus on what we were there to do. And I think ultimately, it played a part in us not having the best investigation this go around, because none of us could really, really focus because of the heat,
Yeah. Well, I remember, I forgot which one of us started spouting off the symptoms of heat exhaustion.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either, but somebody was like, oh yeah, brain fog, feeling nauseous. And I'm over here like, I have all of that. Right
Maybe it was Patrick.
Probably.
Because Adolfo barely says anything.
Yeah. And if you don't remember, well, we all had such bad brain fog.
It could have been me. I don't know.
It could have been me as I'm telling this story. I'm like, well, I could have been just talking to myself.
I legit, though, like, we would be talking and I kept forgetting things.
Yep.
Like just because I couldn't concentrate. And there were so many things. Like, I'm still mad at myself because leading up to it, the weeks before, I was like, we got to remember to take lots of photos. And the drive up there, it's like two plus hour drive. I'm like, don't let me forget to get photos. And I got some great photos of the exterior, and I got some great photos of a few spots. But I'm so mad because that unique restroom, I really meant to get some photos of it, and I didn't. And there was, the stairwell in the back kitchen area just kind of looked creepy to me.
Yeah.
And there was a handful of things, and I'm just like, damn it, I forgot to get those photos, and I'm damn sure not about to go drive another 2.5 hours out there and sweat it out again just for a few photos.
That investigation was literally painful.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't really sweat a lot anyway.
Yeah.
And that's not me just trying to be, coy and modest, like a proper lady. No, I wish to God that I could sweat as much as other people, but being in that house and being in that kind of temperature, it took a huge physical toll on my body, and not to mention I was hungover.
20-year reunion for high school, or 10-year reunion, sorry.
Yeah, and it was, which we're not even, oh dear God, we're not even going to talk about that. And it was a forced detox.
Yeah.
My poor body, I got home and I was like, well, if there's rock bottom for a physical body, I think I just hit mine.
To give like an example of how freaking hot it was, we had a cooler with some drinks and stuff, but the cooler was pretty packed. So I was like, while we're out, I'm going to grab a bag of ice and I'll pour it in the sink and we can ice down some of our drinks. I think that bag of ice melted in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, I was about to say, it didn't even last an hour.
Yeah, it was gone. Like, matter of fact, later when we left, we were going to go visit the cemetery because the local cemetery kind of ties in with the mansion, the residence that we were investigating. And unfortunately, the cemetery was locked and closed, and we didn't get to go. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to take advantage of this outing, and we're going to swing by a store, and I'm going to grab more ice. And I bought 3 freaking bags of ice.
Yep.
1 for the cooler and 2 more for the sink. And that all melted away pretty quickly, too. So it was just ungodly hot in there, man. And it was just, it just sucked.
It did.
So, I mean, and at the time of us filming this podcast right now, we haven't even begun to like edit that video yet. We're still reviewing footage. So depending on when you're watching this or listening to this, if you're listening to it on a podcast network, that Ghost Texas episode may or may not be out yet. But hopefully. Our first investigation is out.
Yes.
That actually was a 3-part series from... So before we met Morgan, Patrick and I had actually visited the Old Town Jail and Museum. I'm like, it's so long. I'm like San Jacinto Old County Jail and Museum in Spring.
You're
wow,
like, wait.
I can't even think now. Cold Spring, Texas. It's like a mile long name, right?
It is.
But so yeah, the first time me and Patrick visited, and then we went back with Morgan, did a second visit, and then we even went a third time to do after the investigation. We which is where we kind of talk about the episodes. But anyways, we turned the 2 visits into a 3-part episode. Mm-hmm. And it's, for me, it's like it's a series and a set of episodes that I'm really proud of the investigation work we did, as well as the final edits of how we put it together. One of the things that like I feel separates us from the other investigators is the effort we put into the editing and making it to a cohesive story, and not just a bunch of like POV 1 hour straight of somebody running around frantically and over exaggerating things, right?
Yes.
Yes. We kind of like everything we put forth is accurate, but we kind of storyboard it.
Well, yeah, not only that, but it's like you bring up, the POV videos that you see. There's so much that could be happening around a person that when you're shooting like that, you don't really get the chance to debunk anything. And that's something that I feel like when we go into an investigation, we don't necessarily set out to prove others wrong.
Yeah.
But if we have the same experience, we want to be able to show everyone, no, this was the environment that we were in. Let's try to figure out how this happened. How could it have happened?
Yep.
And try and reenact the moment to see, okay, did my foot step on this board and make it creak, or
Yeah.
was I standing still and I heard it creak?
And that's another thing we do too, is we put out so many cameras. So like
Yep.
we might have multiple angles of a single room, just because we want to make sure we're capturing everything we can possibly capture.
Yep.
We don't ever want anyone to accuse us of faking anything, because that we absolutely are completely against that, right?
Yes.
And I'm not going to say other people do or do not fake stuff, but sometimes some of the things I see on these other investigators is just like,
Well, and it's I mean, let's be honest here. It's really easy to fake things.
it could be.
Especially, with the way that somebody might be filming their investigation.
Yeah.
And when we film our stuff and when we put our stuff together, not only does it tell a story, but it tells it honestly and truthfully, to where we can't lie about it.
We can't fake it.
Yeah, we
Because
can't.
like we go from a camera that might be in a room that we walk into,
Yeah.
right? So you see us entering the room, and then we're all carrying a camera. So
Yeah.
then you are getting that POV, but from multiple people, because we'll switch from one camera to the other, so that you're getting like a full experience of the room, kind of the way we see it as it's taking place.
Yes.
The other thing that allows us to do is layer audio, and layer it in the sense of discovering if something was like you said, like a random noise in a room. Maybe on one camera it sounds like something suspicious or unique, but then we hear it on the other camera and see a different angle and be like, oh, somebody opened and closed the door,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So that's why we heard that creaking noise or whatever, right?
Yes.
Whereas if you only had that one camera angle, you can't really kind of piece together like, what was that noise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we try to eliminate that kind of stuff from being a possibility as much as we can.
That alone sets us apart from a lot of the other people who put out content, is the amount of effort that we put into not only filming, but the editing,
The production of it.
just everything.
Yeah.
Everything. It's like on this last investigation, I asked one of you, I need to remember who I talked to. Because I asked one of you, do they know the work that we do? We're not just, coming in here with our cell phones and making videos.
Yeah.
We consider ourselves to be professionals. We have professional equipment. We know how to use it. We know what we're doing. We're not just coming in here to do some lazy work.
Yeah.
We are a professional team. Are they aware of that? Do they know how much equipment that we have?
Like the equipment's the funny part. It's kind of comical. I have a bad habit of buying cameras.
Is that a bad habit though?
I mean,
I
probably
them.
own
You use them.
about 50 plus cameras.
And we use like half of them in one investigation.
Yeah, we use a lot of them. Like the ones that I'm using here for the podcast, these will never go on an investigation just because I want this to always be set up and ready to go. So that's another thing. I have a lot of equipment because when I have something set up as like a recording station, like the podcast setup here, I don't want to break stuff down and reset it up and break it down and reset it up. I have cameras like what you can't see off camera over there is, and for those that's listening off to my right, I have another a section of the room where over COVID I started doing these videos of me assembling puzzles, and it's just like time-lapse videos. But I have a set of cameras that are specific just to that. And initially I used to set up, break down, and I got tired of doing it. And I was like, all right, I just need to buy some other cameras because I don't want to have to keep taking this equipment up and down, up and down, up and down. It's not out of laziness, it's out of motivation, right? Because I keep pretty busy with things.
Yes.
And if I'm going to dedicate time to doing a puzzle video, I don't want to have to spend 30 minutes to set it up. I just want to go over, power everything on, hit record, mic up, and go.
Yeah.
Same thing with the podcast. I don't want to have to set up a bunch of stuff. I just want to turn all the devices on, hit record, and go.
Yep.
Initially, it was just because I had a bad habit of buying cameras. Always want the latest and greatest.
Well, just stick with. I have different stations.
Yeah.
It almost reminds me the way that you have set things up. It kind of reminds me of when you're in school, and you literally have stations. You start off on one side of the room,
Yeah.
and you do your thing, and then the timer goes off, and everybody moves over to the right.
You talking about like in grade school?
Yeah.
Okay.
and
Okay.
This is how in college.
Well, no, because like we'll see for me.
College should be a lot more fun if we did it that way.
In, I think kindergarten through third, we just had like one classroom, right?
Yeah.
And then for me, my fourth and fifth grade school was a different school. And your first half of your day is with one teacher.
Yep.
The second half of your day, you actually just swap with the room next door.
Yep.
Actually, yeah, we swapped. I was like thinking, did we swap or did the teacher swap? But no, we swapped. We moved to the other room.
Yep. That's what we did.
Yeah, so one teacher taught half of the subjects, the other teacher taught the other half. But in addition to that, we had like a science room. Mm-hmm. And the science room was with a different teacher. So it wasn't like when you get to junior high and high school where you have bells and you're changing every class. I think science was not, I don't even think it was daily. I think it was only a couple times a week. And we had music, same thing, completely different room. You go over to the music room. And then, of course, gym was, I believe, daily.
And like art.
Yeah, so like each subject was a station, right?
Okay, so in your life, each project is a station.
Yeah, like this is my podcast / YouTube studio / guest room because there's a couch over there.
Yeah.
And then on my third floor is a whole nother station because my third floor is dedicated to my photography and it's a full photo studio. Mm-hmm. Which has another set of equipment.
Yep. And then you have your puzzle set up and, then you have your actual work set up.
Yeah. Behind me, I've got like my, that over there is my day job set up. And behind me is my personal setup. Yeah.
Yep. So, don't beat yourself up about buying too many cameras.
I'm just trying to I'm making excuses to myself to justify it.
As long as you can do that, I think it's okay.
Every camera has a purpose.
It does. It does. And, I think there's a problem when you don't know what you have, you don't know where it is, and you're just drowning in things.
Yeah.
But you are so meticulous about, where you place things and, color code things and label things, and you take care of your things. And
from like setup and breakdown of an investigation, it's like
exactly. If I say, hey, where's this camera?
Yeah, where are the 70Ds? I'll be like, it's in the black backpack with the dome top.
Yep. It's in this bag, right behind this one, right next to this one.
Right. Where's the big drone? Oh, it's in the black backpack with
exactly.
the hard top. Where's the small drone? It's in the big fat think tank bag. I know exactly every slot, every pocket, and I got like 20 plus camera bags, and I have them. It's memorized. I know where every single GoPro is, every DJI.
It is. Now, I think once things are just sitting around not being used for anything and you're just buying them just to buy them, I think that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah. So sometimes it's curiosity, right? Did I really need to buy the DJI action camera when I already had like 5 GoPros?
I feel like that's just spoiling yourself.
But we've put that DJI to use on every single Ghost Texas investigation.
Yep. So again, it's not just sitting around collecting dust. You're putting it to good use.
Yeah, and it has some pros to it, So like, it was one of the... let me think about this for a minute to make sure I'm not lying. But I'm pretty sure it was the first one I had that had a front-facing screen. Uh-huh. Because all the GoPros originally only had rear-facing screens. So we were using the DJI in the corner of a room and setting it up high, and I could see the angle because it has the screen on the front. Where when I was setting a GoPro up,
you didn't really
I knew
know.
the radius, but I was just guessing.
Yeah.
Right. So the more recent GoPros obviously have the front facing and the rear facing screen. It did, like, my first 360 camera was the Rilo 360, which to me, form factor, was probably one of the best 360 cameras because it's like almost identical.
I have no idea what any of these are.
So this Rilo is almost identical to the size of a GoPro.
Okay.
But it's a 360, so it's got the lens on the front and back, right? So it's perfect size, right? When I went on one of my second cruise, I was able to strap it on the snorkel just the same as a GoPro, and it was perfect because it was small. Then I got the GoPro 360 on our second visit to the jail. That's the one that caught that black shadowy
Yep.
mass.
Yep, I remember.
And that one is cool, but the problem is it's like it's kind of bulky. It's like I know if you're listening and not watching you can't see, but it's about this big, and it's got like a lens on 2 corners on the front and back. And it's cool, but I couldn't find what I felt was adequate waterproof housing for it. And so I went on a cruise this year in April, and I told myself I needed to buy 2 of the Insta360 1X2s, whatever they're called. The name's like a mile long, because they had better underwater housing.
Why'd you buy 2?
For my guest.
Oh, right.
Because we were going to do snorkeling and stuff, and so I wanted us to both be able to have it. She ended up not really ever using it, which is fine. It's always good to have a backup camera in case one of them stops working or something.
Okay.
I didn't mean to go off on such a tangent of my cameras. You're my guest, and I'm doing all the talking. My bad.
Oh, no, it's okay. I know how you feel about your cameras. So it's okay.
It's the closest thing I've had to a relationship, and I couldn't tell you how long.
Oh, no. Don't let anybody
That probably sounds
footage.
Terrible. Yeah, that probably sounds horrible. No, it's just meaning it's like I spend...
You're very attentive to your camera.
Yeah. Before we got on here, we were talking about dating, right? We were talking about dating apps.
Oh, yeah.
God,
Yes.
man, like... So what... Okay, from a female perspective, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on dating apps and which dating apps you're actually using or have used.
Well, first, I feel like it's important to say that there's absolutely nothing that you can compare to actual human interaction. And there's
I
nothing
absolutely
more
agree.
attractive than when I'm out and a man comes over and introduces himself to me. But unfortunately, we all work, we all have lives, and we live in a day and age where everybody's on the go all the time.
Yep.
And I've been asked, why do you use them? And I was like, well, it's a tool. It's one more way to meet somebody. Personally, I've never been on Tinder.
Yeah.
I will never catch me on Tinder ever. And then I have tried Bumble, and I prefer Hinge. I feel like in that order, quality gets better.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what makes me feel that way. Just because majority of people that I've spoken to, they have both Bumble and Tinder. I mean,
Yeah.
and Tinder. Oh God.
Bumble and Hinge.
Thank you. But I feel like the fishing is better when you are on Hinge.
But definitely not Plenty of Fish.
Oh my God, I had one. I had one of those. And it was back when like it wasn't anything and nobody was really on it.
Yeah. It's become quite interesting.
I can't even imagine.
Let's just use the word
what is crawling
eclectic.
through the. Oh, okay.
I want to be polite.
Yeah.
In case somebody is on any of those apps.
I'd be really curious to know who is. Not so curious that I'm gonna
I was just on it
create
up
my own
until a
account.
couple months ago.
Really?
But so, from a guy's perspective,
Yeah.
right? When you get on these dating apps, I don't do this, but let's just say I went and swiped right on every single person, right?
Oh my God, I know somebody who did that.
I have a friend that does that. It would take forever to actually find somebody else that swipes back, right?
Okay.
But for females, you guys, you ladies,
Oh, I'm picky.
but y'all probably get a ton of swipes, right?
Yes.
So for me, I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to go ahead and pay for the 1-year subscription, $150, whatever it is, right? And whatever app it's on, because I want to see who's already swiped on me, right? It helps to kind of save the time of like endlessly swiping. It doesn't mean I won't randomly swipe right on somebody without seeing if they swiped on me first. But when I can go and see like, oh, 5 people swiped on you, which hardly ever is there 5 in the same time. But I can go look and be like, okay, do I have anything in common with this person? Would I swipe back on them? And most of the time I wouldn't have swiped them, you know? So they end up getting the left swipe, right? But personally for me, I've been on and off of dating apps for years now, just because it's pretty normal at this point, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, Plenty of Fish was not good. Why I tried it again like a year ago, I don't know. Still wasn't good. I canceled it before my subscription was even up. I was like, I don't even want this app anymore. It's like you won't get a free refund. I don't care. I just
keep my money. Don't call me.
Yeah, I don't want it to show up
Don't
anymore.
Contact me ever again. I've made a mistake.
Match, I did that one.
Okay.
Never led anywhere, paid version or free. Currently, I do have Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge.
Oh, no. Get off of Tinder. What are you doing?
My Hinge and my Bumble, my paid subscriptions ended. And I was like, I'm not going to renew them. And I'm going to delete the apps when I stopped paying for them, right?
Okay.
I'm going to come back to that in a second. Tinder, I still have the paid version of it. I think it runs out in a couple months, right? So here's what's funny. I feel like their algorithm wants you to spend money, obviously, right? So when I had the paid version, the number of times that people would actually swipe right on me were so few, right? The moment it expired, they ramped me up to be in front of more people, right? So it's like 20 people swiped, 20 people want to meet you. Go upgrade. And I'm like, well, where the heck were these 20 people when I was already paying for it, right? So I feel like it's like,
that makes sense.
Yeah, so I feel like they're like, oh, we got your money. We're not going to show you to people anymore. We already got your money. Oh, you expired and you didn't renew? Let's go flood you with a whole bunch of views to get people to swipe on you. Get your money. Oh, we got your money now. We don't care about you anymore. That's my own thought, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that cracks me up is, right, so Bumble and Hinge, I currently do not have the paid version. Hinge will show you, like, say 5 people swiped on you, they'll show you the first person.
Yeah.
And
I've never paid.
Yeah, if you accept or reject them, then you can see the next one and so on. With Bumble, if you have the free version, you can't set the filters, where when you do have the paid version, you can set the filters to an exact thing, process of what you want to exclude. But what cracks me up, I think this is hilarious, is since I can't see who it is that likes me, but I know they're there, I'll be swiping to try to clear out anybody who's in there, right? And I'll just be swiping right or left like I naturally would. And I'll swipe left and be like, you missed out on a match. I'm like, no, I didn't. Because I swiped left. Like it's not a match if I swiped left. So I didn't miss out on anything because
I didn't want it
I'm not interested in that person. So don't tell me I missed out on a match by swiping left, because it wouldn't have been a match.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of comical. Like, I'm like, no, I didn't miss out. I didn't miss out on anything. Yeah. Tinder, like you said, though, like, okay, so here's another thing from a guy's perspective, right? I think the majority of the swipes we get, or a lot of them, are fake, and they're just trying to get us over to their OnlyFans or to their sex sites.
Yep.
And so
that's what I've heard.
Yeah, so it's frustrating because, like, I can never really tell. Well, I've got indicators, right? But a lot of them have the blue check or whatever that says they're verified, but like it's pretty obvious that they're not there to date. They're just trying to get subscribers to their OnlyFans, right? And no hate on anybody who's doing OnlyFans. I don't care, right?
No.
But don't come to a dating app to just lure people over to subscribe to you. I mean, like, a dating app is for dating, or for some people it's for hooking up. That's what Tinder's kind of got the rap of,
Yep.
But yeah, like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like they don't really get me anywhere, unfortunately.
Yeah.
In all my years of using dating apps, I've only been on a handful of dates, and none of them, not a single one, has ever led to a follow-up date.
Like I said, I'm very picky.
So am I.
With who I choose, especially to go out on a date with. I have had great experiences. I have had terrifying experiences.
You're like, hey friend, this is exactly where I am. This is a picture of their license plate, and this is the guy I'm going out with that's on the dating app. You have to. I mean, for me as a female, I think, like, not as me as a female, but I'm saying for a female, I think that you have to be a little bit more.
Oh, you have to be super cautious
than a male.
Because I mean, if you look at it for what it is, women are prey.
Yeah.
We are smaller. We have things that men want, and things that, I mean, they think that they can just take.
Yeah, there are people who are gonna know that they can overpower and misuse these apps. So I think it would be dumb not to be cautious.
Yeah. I mean, I have a girlfriend who she will literally run like a background check.
Yeah. And
that's before the first date. And that's not her being crazy or, going in too much. It's no, if for example, I went on a date. Oh God. I went on 2 dates with the same guy, and that ended up with him stalking me.
That's scary.
And then New Year's Eve, he got mad at me because I told him that I wasn't spending New Year's Eve with him,
mm-hmm.
and that we will talk about things the following day. I had already made friends. I had already made plans with my friends, and I was going to spend New Year's Eve with them. And that resulted in many angry phone calls and voicemails. And
was this before it was easy to just block somebody on a phone?
No. See, I don't block people because I wanna know if they're trying to find me, if they're trying to connect with me. No, his number will never be blocked, because if he's trying to reach out to me, I want to know.
Yeah, you just changed it to Crazy Stalker Guy from dating app.
Terrifying.
Is the name.
Anyway, but yeah, I was getting pictures with him with like a gun to his head, and
the guy wonders why he's single.
Right.
Man.
Well, it turns out a couple months later, I was talking to another girlfriend of mine, telling her about my experience, and she was like, "Oh, is his name?" And she told me, and I dropped my drink.
Wow. That's crazy.
And I was like, yes. She goes, I didn't even go out on a date with him. He found out where I lived and had like a ton of flowers sent to me. And she was like, he was acting like he was obsessed with me. She's like, that scared me. He had my address.
Yeah. So like, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was going to go into something that I thought was kind of a little bit sort of funny. I won't say which of my friends that I suggested this to, but this was probably like 6 or 7 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he found this chick that he matched with. He's like, man, I don't know, like, I wish I just knew a little bit more about her than what the resume says, meaning like her dating app, right? Because it's like, all you're going to do is say the best things about yourself.
Yep.
And I was like, well, why didn't you just reverse image search her? And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, Google has that feature where you can go put an image in there, and then you can search reverse for that image, and it's going to pull the most common images. It's like, if somebody's putting a picture in their dating app, chances are that's going to be their profile photo on one of their social media apps, because they're proud of those photos, right? And I was like, yeah, just reverse image search it. And so we did it, and in about 10 seconds, we were able to find that Facebook profile, and we weren't being creepy. He just wanted to kind of get an idea of the female, of the lady, right?
Yeah.
And so he was like, okay, she is legit. Okay, she's pretty cool, right? But what you just mentioned, the address, right? And this is something that people don't think about and don't realize, is if you're using a smartphone, and even some of the newer DSLR cameras and mirrorless cameras, right? But if you're using a smartphone primarily and you take a photo, all the data that is stamped into that photo will give down to the exact GPS coordinates of where that photo was taken, the day it was taken, what time of day it was taken, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can go on Facebook, you can go right click an image, you can go and hit inspect, and you can get all of that data.
All of it.
And that's how they probably found
Have you ever watched?
And I'm not like a crazy stalker.
Oh, no,
this is just like, this
is
what you have to be aware of, right?
It is amazing. So, I don't know how many people know what my role, I guess, in with Ghost, what I like to do is I research.
Yeah, backstories and
Love doing that. Love going through archives, everything like that. People have no idea how easy it is to find information.
it's super easy.
I mean, I was in the middle of having a conversation with my best friend. She told me her parents had just moved, and the conversation was about this, about how easy it is to get information. Within 10 seconds, I had her parents' new address.
If you're a homeowner in
And
Texas,
I showed it. Yep.
HCAD.
And everything. Yep. And everything is public. And I mean, not that has ever changed.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just easily accessible, and a lot of people don't know the tools exist.
Yep. And
I know it because of working in mortgage and real estate off and on for the last 20 years.
Yep. It is extremely easy. Have you ever watched the show You?
Yeah, I love that show.
Okay. Well, yes, I do too.
And I love. I know it's not a horror movie, but I love horror movies. I love thriller movies. I love things to do with like serial killers and all that whole realm and that whole world. Like not in a creepy way. I don't know why, but
it's
enjoy
fascinating.
it. Yeah, it's fascinating.
To me, it's fascinating. If I had all the money in the world and time, age, everything just doesn't matter, I can just do what I want, I would probably become like a criminal psychologist.
Yeah,
I would love that. But so in the show, for those of you who aren't, I guess, aware of it, the show is called You, and this psychotic man is obsessed with whoever the you is for that season.
Each season's like kind of a different character.
You.
And he just seems so pleasant and nice.
Oh, I know. I found myself rooting for him in the first season.
Yeah.
The best way to describe it is it is a cringe. It's cringy. It is a cringe-worthy show. You're sitting there like, oh my God. Oh, she's about to find you. And then it's like, but wait, you shouldn't be there anyway.
Yeah. If you like that show, just as a reference, right? Because I don't want to cut you off, but if you're a fan of the show Dexter and you have not seen You would probably like the show You.
Yes, I've heard multiple people say that.
Yeah.
But and it probably didn't help that when I had that going on with this man.
You're watching that show at the same time.
Yeah.
You're like, yes. I know what can happen.
Yes, I believe it was right when the second season was released.
Yeah.
And I'm watching this and thinking like, oh dear God, he's going to find me. And then of course it didn't help. So I take my dog Lucy to the dog park, and he knew this.
Yeah.
I never told him which dog park, which means he had to go and find
photos in Google Maps.
I
probably sound like a crazy person, but it's because like when I'm okay, so as a photographer,
yeah, that's what I was.
If I'm going to go do a destination shoot, I'll often go to Google Maps because I want to see if I'm going to the right places. I want to find the landmarks. I want to know exactly where the spots are that I want to shoot because I want to maximize my time there. Mm-hmm. So I'll go do that Google Street View and that Google Satellite View quite often for that kind of a thing. But back to the show, You.
That's what he does.
Exactly.
That's where he finds out where, his victim lives, is he literally sees a picture from her social media, does a Google search with it, and sure enough, it pops out her address. And it is terrifying how easy that is. And it's even more terrifying when, there's catfishing with dating apps. Mm-hmm. You don't really know who is looking at you. And that's not to say, these people only come from dating apps, because they can just be anybody. Yep. If your stuff is set to public.
Yep. It could be on LinkedIn. They know where you work.
Yep.
So talking about the ability through You to find people, right?
Yeah.
Have you watched the show? It's a documentary series. I think it was on Netflix, and I try not to drop F-bombs on the podcast. So it's called Don't F with Cats.
Yes.
Did you watch that?
I did.
What I thought was so amazing about that is when the public of people that were trying to figure out where this dude was, were just posting pictures in this group. I think it was a Facebook group. And they were able to okay, well, it's in this country because of this wall outlet. And this building looks like these types of windows are in this city. And just the way that these people were coming together to diagnose these photos to pinpoint where this dude was.
Yeah, and to ultimately stop him
Detective work.
Yep, ultimately stop him from killing anybody. I mean, down to, I was very impressed.
Which unfortunately he
with,
did kill somebody, but
yeah, as well as the cats.
yeah. But yeah, it was crazy because
Oh, I think it's extremely impressive the way, and also it was super heartfelt, the fact that everybody came together and was like, hey, you see a problem, I see a problem.
Yeah.
We need to stop this problem.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no. It's,
I was going to say is when so I've always kind of been into photography, like pretty much always. Like my dad gave me a camera when I was like 7 years old, 6 years old, something like that. I don't remember. 35 millimeter, right?
He's just so sweet.
This is long before digital ever existed. I didn't understand the concept of film, and I went through a whole roll of film like that, right? Because back in the day with film, you only had 24 exposures or 36 exposures typically. And then you fast forward to high school, and I really got into photography a lot. I learned the darkroom aspect of it and developing your own film and using enlargers and doing everything in black and white. And I was like, I love this, right? And then I was like, what can I do with my photography? And right now, I've fallen into marketing, and I've been in mortgage and all that stuff. But my brain, my mind, and the things that I really enjoy is more in the creative space, right? And back then, we didn't have digital, right? So the world that we live in now, where photography is involved in so much stuff, it didn't exist. And I was like, well, what could I apply my photography skills to and actually have a job? And one of the things that I had seriously considered going into, sometimes I wonder what direction I would have ended up if I had, but I wanted to get into crime scene photography.
Oh.
And so I think that's part of the reason I love the show Dexter, and a lot of these shows is like, even back then, even though I may not have realized it back then, my brain already worked that way, of analyzing and breaking things down. And I play, and this is funny because I say that I'm in the marketing and all this stuff. I apply the same concept of how a detective would recreate or re-engineer a crime scene to try to get to the killer or whoever, right? The suspect is what I'm looking for. I do the same thing analytically in my day job, because if a problem arises, whether it's a software issue or systems issue, I start working in reverse to figure out what I need to do to solve it. But I also apply the same thing to marketing tactics, right? You think of your end user, your consumer, or whatever it is, and you say, how do I reach this person? What would this person be interested in? And I start working in reverse to figure out how to create that. So I guess it's so weird. I didn't even think about that till now, but yeah, so it's like crime scene photography is like super important when it comes down to it, because it can make or break a case. Like,
it can.
And you have to pay attention to the finest detail. And I'm very meticulous, very OCD. Like Morgan was mentioning earlier, like about my organization. I know it like might look like I've got a bunch of stuff going on here in the background, and even behind, well, I guess you can't see in Morgan's camera. I have these plastic totes and stuff, and I know what's in every single tote.
So organized.
Yeah, like I know where everything is in my place. If you were to stay here for a weekend and I was out of town and you said, hey, I need to find out where XYZ is, can you tell me? I could just tell you on the phone. I could be like, hey, go to this room, go to this shelf, and it's going to be on that side of the shelf, or it's going to, whatever. I can tell you where anything is. But I think that is important in crime scene photography. And I don't know where I would have ended up if I had done that, because I think it's a very dark career path.
Oh, I think so too, but it's also extremely important.
Yeah, because you never know what you're going to happen upon, right? So, like, if you're a crime scene photographer, you're obviously there because you're probably shooting deceased people, in scenarios. So, like,
it's needed, because if something had been moved, or if you're literally taking that crime scene and freezing it in time.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's dark, but you're helping people.
Exactly, and that's you know that's why I feel like I could push through it. But you never know. Like,
there's some people who just can't. Yeah,
like, unfortunately, I've experienced a lot of death.
Same. In
friends and family. Yeah. Like an abnormal amount that, like, lots of people point out to me, like, it's not normal. Like, On average, I know probably 15 plus people a year that pass away. Why? I don't know. I think it's a numbers thing. I think it's because I know a lot of people, and
That's
when
what I
at
was
the end
gonna
of the
say.
day, it's a figure, it's a number, right? Where I'm going with this is that I've been to countless funerals, and I'm always on the fence of, if it's an open casket, do I go up there or not, right? Because more than once, of viewing them in the casket, unfortunately, that was the lasting image I have. It doesn't matter how many pictures of them I look at. It doesn't matter the memories I have. I can't shake
Yep.
that lifeless image of them out of my head. And when I think of them, that's the first image I think of, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes I ask myself, do I skip on viewing them, or do I suck it up and go give them my last goodbyes, right? And seeing somebody in the casket and prepared is different from seeing somebody
Like
maybe
in
that
their
has
death state.
yeah, that had a gunshot wound, or
Oh, I think it's drastically different. I think they look more natural
yeah, and
in a crime scene photo, and it's not. They don't look right when you're
yes.
at a funeral.
So one of the, it's weird, I'm getting like a knot in my throat. One of the caskets, one of my friends, they didn't do a very good job of sealing his eyes shut.
Oh,
And so there was a slight gapping. And that's all I ever remember of him. Because this was at a time where I didn't have a lot of photographs of this friend. And so every time I think of him, I just think of seeing him in the casket with his eyes kind of half open, and it just being blackness and dark. And it was like, I don't know, it's just kind of strange.
yeah.
But aside from funerals, I didn't mean for this to go so dark, by the way, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
But aside from like funerals, there's been 3 other occasions that I've seen someone deceased.
Yes.
One time was in the middle of the road, coming home from a night out, and coming up at a stoplight, and for whatever reason, the light reflected, and I saw like a reflection.
Okay.
And so I turned my attention to the reflection, and it hit me that it was somebody's arm, and it was a gold watch.
Oh, wow.
And the cops were they were covering the person, and apparently they must have gotten hit or something. I don't really know. I never really kind of like looked up the story to find out what the deal was with that one. But it was a deceased person just in the middle of the road at like 2:00 in the morning. The second one was en route to work, and traffic was backed up like way more than usual. And I was like, what's going on? And then I noticed it's narrowed down, and I'm like, oh, it's construction. This sucks. I'm going to be late to work. And then all of a sudden I see, like news vans will have like the really tall antenna.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I saw like 2 or 3 of those poking up in the air, and I was like, oh, something's going on here, right? TC Jester Park. So I was going past TC Jester Park, and I looked to my right as I'm passing, and like old school Raggedy Ann and Andy, like rag dolls.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you were to like just drop it and it like looks like
Oh.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
A guy apparently drove back and forth over his girlfriend several times.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's an image I can't shake. It just driving by in that like 3-second window,
I get
and
that.
her body just
I get that.
laid out like that. And that was just like, man, could I have really done crime scene photography? Because like, do you eventually become numb to it?
I think you do.
I
mean, I think that goes to, any job really.
Yeah.
If you do something for so long, whether it be sick, morbid, fun, gratifying, it loses its meaning.
Yeah. But I also feel like, do you give too much of yourself up by doing that? Because then you become numb to like
Oh, I'm sure.
everything. Like I think that I know a divorce rate is really high with police force, and I think if you're a detective and you're dealing with these types of things on a regular basis, it becomes difficult to separate that from your personal life.
Yeah.
And if you see victims all the time,
Well, not only that,
you
but
start to worry about your own what could happen to your own family members if you don't ever want them to become that victim.
well, and I think a lot, especially in like the detective point of view, is, you know, these cases mean so much to them sometimes that it's literally all they think about.
It takes them over because they want to
All
solve
they
it.
think about. Yeah, because it's not only, oh yeah, I don't want this to happen to my family. It's
I want to
there
give.
is a family out there who is missing this person,
Yeah.
who, you know, needs answers, who, you know, what happened, and
The closure. They need closure.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not even necessarily their obsession of finding the suspect. It's the obsession of giving
duty
the
to give
family closure,
Yep.
to give them answers so that they can put their mind at rest and move forward. And the third one that for me that I saw, I think you already know about this one.
About this one.
Yeah. And I'm not going to talk about it, but that one was really hard.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not something I ever imagined myself doing, but I felt like it was the right thing to do.
And to simplify it for anybody who's watching or listening, it was just a close family friend passed away, and they needed help moving the body, and Melvin offered to help, which I don't think you should have been in that position at all, but the fact that you did it so selflessly, I think, speaks a lot about your character.
If the roles were reversed, I wouldn't want to see my loved one that way.
No.
And just like what I just talked about, seeing that last image of somebody, if I can save them from seeing their loved one that way, I'd much rather
Oh, yeah.
do that, you know?
You're a better person than some people that I know. I mean, shoot, when my father died, he died of a massive heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up rolling out of his hospital bed, smashed his face, broke his nose, and I mean, he died instantly.
Yeah.
But my sister and I and my brother weren't there or anything when it happened. But my aunt and uncle were, and to say that I am not their fan is to be nice, and I'm going to stay nice.
Yeah.
But my uncle actually took a picture of my dad's body in the morgue, and at my dad's funeral was like, "Oh yeah, did you wanna see it? Did you want me to send this to you?" I'm like, oh,
No.
"Nope, I'm good." He's like, "Yeah, you know, that's why we did the closed casket. His face was all messed up." And I'm like, "Okay."
You could have been a little bit
Okay.
more.
Oh no, I don't think that's in them.
Wow.
But you know, it's like I said, it speaks a lot about your character and who you are as a person, to even consider that somebody's loved one.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of the relationship that I had with my dad, which was it was our relationship.
Yeah.
We were very us. And though others may have misconstrued our relationship, we knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
But you know, there's no call for taking upon somebody to ruin those last images of somebody else for another person. So the fact that you stepped up, I'm sure his family, I mean, there are no words.
And to just be clear to anybody who's maybe listening or watching, I'm not looking for a pat on the back or
No.
like I didn't do this because
You would have done it even if nobody found out.
exactly.
That's just who you are.
Yeah, like there's one other one, and I want to kind of move on from this because I didn't mean to go so dark. But one of the other kind of unique scenarios that I was involved with is, I always tell you people it's so crazy, the places that a camera will lead you, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a quick reference. So I've been in every position of a wedding, with the exception of the groom. Right?
Have you been the bride?
Or well, I've been the bride, but I've been a bridesman,
Oh, yep.
and
See,
I've been the best man in a partnership, and
I'm
I've been
gonna
the
have
best
to
man
be
3
the
times over
both.
as well as that, right? So I've had my fair share of every position imaginable in a wedding.
Thanks for clarifying that.
It's going somewhere. I promise you, it'll make more sense in a minute. And in high school, I got into DJing, and I DJ'd for probably like a span of like 15 plus years. And as I started getting into my early and mid 20s, and friends started getting married, they're like, "Hey, why don't you come DJ our wedding?" And I'm like, "I really don't want to, but okay, if you're paying me, And
I really don't want to, but okay.
I DJ'd. I couldn't tell you how many freaking weddings I DJ'd, right? And it just took the fun out of DJing, and it's kind of ultimately what led me to kind of stop doing it, right?
See,
And
you
then
got used to it.
yeah, and then as I
Took
progressed
all of
into
the things away.
yeah, and then when I got like really deep into photography, like digital photography, then people started asking me to shoot all sorts of things. And
I'm guilty of that.
I shot countless weddings. Like I'm like, God, I can't escape weddings, right? I just can't be the groom in a freaking wedding.
Following me.
But and the camera will lead you all kinds of places. I've gotten to shoot all kinds of events and concerts and meet celebrities and just all sorts of things. But one of the most weird ones was, I don't want to say weird, but unique, right? Because I want to be respectful of people.
Yeah.
Is a very close friend of mine, his wife's, I believe her cousin. She was like 17 years old. Got into a car accident and passed away. And a big part of her family is not in the U.S.
Oh.
And they said, "Hey, could you come take pictures of the funeral, the ceremony?"
Yes.
And I was like, "Sure, yeah, no problem," right? It was so weird because kind of like back to what you were saying about your uncle. I treated it a little differently because in a wedding, everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Right. And you want to go, "Hey, let me get a group picture of everybody." This was weird. I had to, like, I'm glad that I thought ahead of time to bring 2 lenses, and I brought a zoom lens because I wanted to capture the emotion on people without being in their face.
Yes.
And so, and a lot of these people didn't speak English. And it wasn't a language I could even kind of make out. But you could just see the sorrow on their face, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm shooting these people, and you're zoomed in on their face, and you can see the expression and the sadness, and it's just like, part of you feels weird taking photos in this moment, and then part of me realizes this is what the family in the other country needs to see because they can't be there to
Yeah.
express it themselves.
It's still a super, super important moment.
Yeah.
It's a very important life moment. I have my my grandmother's funeral that was it's VHS taped.
Yeah.
I too went to a funeral actually just recently, and my best friend's dad, who, if he's in the room, he's got a camera on him.
Yeah.
There will be pictures. And I mean, you may not even realize that he's there until you hear the shutter sound and you're like, "Oh, hello."
Yeah.
But, same thing. I was at the funeral and I remember sitting there thinking, "Oh, that's a little insensitive."
Yeah.
And then I started really thinking about it. I was like, actually, you know what? No, I'm kind of on board with this idea because there's a lot of things that family members talk about, and death is one of them.
Yeah.
And funeral services are one of them. And I watched the entire video of my grandmother's service. And, my niece and nephews have asked me about my dad's service. And You know, it's not something that people think about. But
And you can't
it's
remember a lot
important.
of it either.
Yeah.
Because you're emotional.
Yep.
The most difficult part for me about it, though, was when they said, "Hey, did you get any pictures of her in the casket?" I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, we need photos of her in the casket." And there was a lot of people around, right? A lot. And so being off to the side with the zoom lens was one thing, but
Oh,
switching
yeah.
to the normal lens and trying to like position myself above the casket.
Well, I'm sure
And
to get more
and
of a
yeah, and it was just
profile
fortunately
than a
she looked
morbid
very
picture.
beautiful. She was a sweet girl. She looked it was they did a great job on her preparation. But it's just a weird thing, you know, that you it's one of those things that you never really think that you would be doing.
Yes.
It's not a bad thing. It's
No,
but it's
no.
just an interesting and unique place
Moment.
to be. Yeah, you know, and yeah, it leads me to one other thing now that I remember too is like I've assisted in so many funerals as many as well because dedication memorial videos.
Oh, yep.
And sometimes that's been my way of grieving, right? Because
I remember you telling me about that.
yeah, I've gotten hundreds of photos and been asked to put it together as a memorial video. And in the process of that making that memorial video is sometimes when my own emotions start to come out, if it's somebody that I knew. And so I kind of get my grieving, I work through my grief in the process of making this video. And then so when it comes to the day of the service, I'm not as sad because I've already gone through it, you know?
Yeah.
And then being able to see the video play and the love and emotion that people have from being able to see those memories, because a lot of these pictures are coming from family members and people I don't know. And you know, I've got all a collection of photos and they each have an attachment to some image that goes up on that screen, right? So you're touching a lot of people, but on an individual basis for each person. So yeah. So
It's very personal.
yeah, it was so funny. Is not funny, but like when we started this, I didn't expect at all
Not
that we would end up needing to hear. So like before we started filming, I told Morgan, I was like, well, pretty much what I usually do is introduce people and how we got to know how we know each other, and then I just let it go wherever it goes. But I didn't think it was going to go here.
Yeah, no, but this is where we're at.
Yeah. So, but yeah, let's try to bring it up a little bit because
Yeah.
I don't want to end it on a sad note, you know.
Yeah.
I guess one thing I can go back to, since you know talking about cameras leading you places, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one of those people that like gets fanatic and crazy over meeting celebrities. I can appreciate the moment for what it's worth, but I'm not like a crazy fan, right? And my camera has given me many opportunities to meet a lot of really cool people and celebrities that I probably otherwise never would have met, but I don't have photos with a lot of them, and there's a reason. And it's a respect, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm at a concert, I have that allotted time where I'm allowed to be right in front of the stage for the first 3 or 4 songs and take as many photos as I want. But if I'm in the backstage in the artist tent, that's their space.
Yeah.
And they don't want a camera crammed in their face at that time.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
But
their,
that's
their private space.
exactly. But that's often been the moment where I've gotten the opportunity to like sit and meet them and chat with them and hang out sometimes for 5 minutes and sometimes for an hour. Like I spent the whole day with freaking Vanilla Ice, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have pictures with these people. Well, actually, I do have a picture with Vanilla Ice, but, but it was because I was like I hung out longer, right?
Bad example, but point is,
yeah. So it's like I don't really care that I met these celebrities, but it is kind of cool that I met them, and I met them because of my camera, right?
Yeah.
So you never know when you make the decision to get into a field or an interest or a hobby where exactly it's going to lead you. Like photography for me has just always been something I just loved, right? Like, and I just did it because I wanted to do it. The weddings killed it a little bit, but now if somebody asks me to do a wedding, I'll just put a ridiculous price tag on it so that if they accept it, then at least it's worth my time, right?
Yeah.
But I'd much rather refer weddings out to somebody. Don't contact me to shoot a wedding. I just don't want to do it.
No.
Don't have any interest. But yeah, I love a lot of the places my camera has led me to. A short story, local rapper Bun B, and then Big Boy of Outkast. I don't know if you know Outkast because it's a little bit older.
Yes, I do.
Okay, I was about to say, because you were looking like, who's Outkast, you know?
Oh, who's that?
No. So we were in an artist tent. This was at Free Press Summerfest probably
Uh-huh.
like 8 years ago or so. I don't even know. And technically, we didn't even have the pass to be in the artist tent. We had the press pass, which allows you to certain areas, but we finagled our way into the artist tent.
Mm-hmm.
And we had our cameras on. I say we because it was one of my buddies. Jillian was with me. But we didn't have our cameras in our hands, right? I think that's what kind of made things at ease. And they're all just circled around in some chairs, and they're smoking and stuff or whatever, right? And they kind of glare at us like, we see your cameras, but they didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And they're all trying to drink Dos Equis, right? Well, Dos Equis aren't twist off. You have to have a bottle cap popper, and nobody had one. And so Jillian's like, "Oh, I got you, man, I got you." And he pops out a lighter and he just starts popping all their caps off, and they just like looking like amazement. And I'm like, dude, you guys are older than me. You have to have seen this before.
Yeah.
Like, you've never seen somebody pop
This
bottle
isn't
caps
new.
off with a lighter? And they're like, "Oh, thanks, dog. Y'all come sit down with us."
I'd be like, okay.
So we just sat down. We were chilling with Bun B and Big Boy. And traditionally, like I was saying with Press Pass, you get to be in the front pit area, like that's separate from the crowd, kind of between the crowd and the stage. And it's
Yeah.
typically for the first like 3 or 4 songs. And then they're like, "Okay, you got your pictures. Now you need to go." We were on stage for the entire Big
that's
Boy.
awesome.
Big Boy let us be on the stage for the entire performance.
That is awesome.
And I think this was like, I don't want to say it was 100,000 people, but it was
Well, I'm
thousands
sure.
and
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of people. And it's the closest I'll ever come to experiencing what it's like to be that artist, that musician, that rapper, and on a stage in front of that many people. And I just remember like being up there and just like looking out, and it's just a sea of people. Like, it was
Yeah.
just endless people. And I always thought to myself, like, oh, I could never be up there. I'd have stage fright, right? But when you're up there, it's like you don't even realize you're up there being stared at by all these people.
Yeah.
You're just up there in the moment, and like I'm scanning the crowd with my eyes, and then I'm like taking pictures, and I'm taking pictures of them on the stage, and then I'm looking out, and then you make the occasional eye contact with some random person out in the crowd, and then that's when you remember, and it reminds yourself like, hey, I am on this stage. All these people are probably wondering, why is this dude up there? How do I get to be the guy on the stage
is
instead of out
he?
here sweating it out in the crowd, you know? But that was just one of those cool moments, you know, like getting, like, 90s rap for me, you know, high school, I was class of 96. Outkast came out around that time. AT Aliens and Cadillac. Oh, God, what's the other song? Now But, you know, so being a big fan, I wish it would have been an Outkast concert, but it was just a Big Boy, because when him and Andre kind of went and did their solo thing, it was cool to meet Big Boy. I'm not hating on Big Boy, but I really would have rather met Andre 3000.
Oh,
But it was still cool to meet Big Boy.
yeah. Well, there you have it. Cameras can take you anywhere from death to happance.
And beautiful ladies.
Everything in between. Oh, yes.
You know, because my photography, some of it's a little bit risque.
Some,
Not all.
not all.
But yeah, it's allowed me to make friendships with a lot of people that I might not have otherwise met.
That's true. It is very true.
Although we haven't had our photo shoot yet, that was
Yeah.
the initial reach out.
That was.
And now here we are filming a podcast. We worked on Ghost Texas together.
Yeah.
We just wrapped up a couple Harry Mack reaction videos.
It's fantastic.
I feel like it's funny because you're my guest, and I feel like I've been talking more than you, and that was not my intention.
Oh, well, that's all right.
Well, I'm hungry.
I am too.
It's getting late. Our challenge is going to be what's open on a Tuesday night that we can go eat at 11:45 at night. So
Oh man.
yeah, for y'all watching, it's 11. It's actually 11:39, but
Yeah.
Is there anything? I know when we were doing the Harry Mack stuff, any social media that you might want to push? Or are you going to put out Lucy's stuff? What do you?
Oh, my puppy.
We didn't even get to talk about animal rescue stuff. We didn't talk about Lucy. It took this weird dark
It did.
direction unintentionally.
It did. And that was one thing that I did want to touch base on was, the animal rescue stuff that I do.
That means you're going to have to come back for another episode.
I'm okay with this.
So, but we'll still plug Lucy's Instagram.
Yes.
Lucy is her dog.
Yes. And if you must if you're listening to this and you just must put a face with the voice, my Instagram is also in her little bio, but she's so important.
I've actually done a photo shoot with Lucy. 2 photo shoots with Lucy.
Yes.
Valentine's and Halloween.
Yes. And I'm probably going to make you do another one.
I'm down.
Yes.
Well, I think this is a good place to end it. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I hogged most of the airtime. It was not intentional.
That is okay. Like you said, it just means I'm going to come back.
It means you're going to come back and I'll have less to say next time.
Yeah, we just got it all out of the way now.
For those of you watching on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Leave me a comment. Let me know where you're listening from or watching from.
Yes, I'm curious about that too.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things, honestly. Like there's analytics inside of YouTube, but it's not the same as somebody tell me, hey, I'm in such and such country and I enjoyed this, or I found you this way, or whatever.
Yep.
If you're listening on a podcast network, which at the time of filming this, I'm not on any podcast networks yet, but that is in the works. It is in the works, and it will be there soon, so you will likely be hearing this on a podcast network at some time. I don't know what the podcast things are. I've heard downloads. I've heard following and subscribing. I think every network has their own little version of something. So whatever the podcast things are that you're supposed to do them. It'll help me. And I think that's about it, really. This is just, yeah?
Yep.
All right. Well, I will see you in the next episode.
Yes.
And maybe we'll see Morgan again in a follow-up investment. Well, not maybe. We will. We will see Morgan back.
I was about to be like,
the
maybe,
podcast.
where it's happening.
Maybe what we need to do on one of the next ones is have you and Patrick on together.
Oh, yeah.
So we can have the Ghost Texas
he
crew.
cracks me up.
Yeah, I think all 3 of us being on would be fun.
I think so too.
All right. Well, guys, we are going to close out here, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.